It's one of the worst case scenarios you can experience as a speaker. You're delivering a speech and then all of a sudden something unavoidable happens. There's a massive distraction. All of your audience turns their heads to look at what is going on. Maybe somebody drops and breaks a glass. Something happens. It's chaos. And you have to pick up the pieces and continue with your speech. This is an incredibly difficult situation, but I am hoping that through this video, I equip you with the knowledge and the skills so that if this happens to you on the next speech that you give, you are going to be able to handle it like a professional and totally brush that distraction aside. Hey everyone, my name is Wade Patterson. I produce video content about being an impactful communicator. Now, a lot of that has to do with Toastmasters, a lot of that has to do with public speaking, some of it has to do with other forms of communication, even things like podcasting, social media, video content. But if this is something that sounds to you like you would like to improve upon, you'd like to become a better communicator, a more impactful communicator, then please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. And that will be my goal, to continue to put out videos like these to make you a stronger communicator. A situation similar to the one that I described at the very beginning of this video occurred when I was speaking, but I was a much more amateur speaker than the point I've grown to now. It was early on. I had just joined a Toastmasters club. It was one of my first speeches. I began to deliver it and there was a massive distraction that caught pretty much the attention of everyone in the room. And I froze, I got completely derailed, and I wasn't able to reel back in the speech. It ended up being a disaster, or at least I felt like it was a disaster. And it was at that moment I got a really good piece of advice from a fellow Toastmaster, and he told me, when a distraction happens, you have two options. You can ignore it, or you can acknowledge it. So let's break these two ideas down because both are useful and it will depend on what the distraction is for which one you implement. So starting with ignoring the distraction, usually this is the right recipe or ingredient to use when the distraction is somewhat minor. Maybe you notice somebody walks in the room and slams the door and a few people turn their heads and it catches people's attention, but it's not enough that you want to maybe call out the person who is walking into the room. Maybe they're late for the meeting, something along those lines. You may not want to draw attention to them. Instead, you continue going. You act as if that occurrence didn't happen. You keep delivering your speech, and if people are chattering or they're talking about whatever that minor distraction was, you compensate by raising your voice, by using vocal variety, recapturing the attention. Do something like clap your hands and regain the audience's attention toward you. By using this in the right way, again, you don't want to just start clapping at the audience, but if it has to do with your story and you can incorporate that in and raise that voice, that is going to recapture the audience's attention on your speech, and people will very quickly forget that minor distraction, such as a door slam or somebody dropping something, they won't even realize that happened because you continued going confidently and completely ignored whatever else had happened. Other times you want to acknowledge it. Acknowledge whatever the distraction was. And usually you're going to do this if the distraction or the noise is something so significant. I mean, if somebody's walking to their chair and they completely fall down, or, something over the top like that, a waiter drops a full tray of food, that is something that is a bit more unavoidable. You always want to make sure that you're not throwing somebody under the bus and being mean-spirited or anything like that, poking fun of somebody, but by incorporating whatever happened, somehow tying that into your speech and drawing attention. And the best ways I've seen speakers do this is almost using what happened as a way to reinforce whatever their speech is about. And it takes a level of creativity to do this, but by acknowledging it up front, the audience will appreciate, because that is a great skill to have, to be able to turn on a dime and incorporate something that is going on into your speech. That is a impressive, elite public speaking skill to have, and a way that you can continue to keep the audience's attention, and you can continue through your speech. So the next time you're speaking and a distraction happens, I want you to remember those two options: ignore it or acknowledge it, and go with one depending on what the situation is and stick to it. I realize that acknowledging the distraction is something that is more advanced. It might be a little bit trickier to do so. So you can always go back on the ignore it piece and stay confident and power through and deliver your speech with conviction. And you will still, pretty much regardless of what the distraction is, you will maintain the audience's attention. But the greater the distraction is, something more significant, if you can acknowledge it, if you can call it out in a way that isn't making fun of anyone, but perhaps it's adding a bit of humor, it's tying it to whatever you're speaking about. By doing so, you are going to probably do an even better job on your speech than had there been no distraction at all. It's an elite skill to have, but if you can do it, all the power to you. I hope this video on avoiding distractions when public speaking was beneficial to you. If it was, leave me a comment, let me know, and consider subscribing to my channel. I am laser focused on providing really great video content to help you become a better communicator. And by subscribing, I think you'll get a lot of value out of these videos. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.